And quite frankly, this week, my well of compassion, I was scraping up the bottom. You know how that is? Because, of course, ministers are always compassionate. And ministers are always nice. And well, you guys are thinking to yourself, who's he talking about? He's not talking about him. We know him. But anyway, the general perception is like that. And I found myself thinking, if one more person asked me for something, none of you, by the way, were the one more person, so I thank you for that. But there are those times. You know, there was a sign, a poster that I used to have. I don't have it anymore. And it was, I'm nobody's sweetheart today. And you have those too, you know. But then you have to reevaluate and say, well, but why am I here on this earth as a human being with all these feelings and all this capacity to be caring, and at least, if nothing else, this ability to pray for others? I can't put that away, because that's what God gave me. And this is the reason why I believe so strongly in the Christian gospel, particularly in just watching Jesus. You don't have to attach anything else to it. All you have to do is watch, and you say to yourself, this human being in the form of Jesus embodied giving his life. He certainly must have received something. It wasn't continually giving of all the things that he had. He must have gotten some power out of this, even though sometimes in the stories, we don't ever hear, do you ever hear Jesus saying to another human being, especially one of the disciples, boy, I'm glad you said that. That's just what I needed. Now, you've said that many times, right? Somebody comes to you, gives you a call, pours a drink for you, offers you a meal, whatever, comes to Paula's house and says, is there anything I can do for you? And Paula hands you the list, you know, and you say, well, thank you. But you don't hear Jesus saying that, you know. You don't hear Jesus saying that. Every once in a while, he offers a compliment, a kindness to someone that is really a sign of his appreciation of the other person. But I never hear him say, boy, I really needed that, to another human being. So then where is his strength coming from? Obviously, it's coming from God. And this drastic, awful burden that he carried is only, his only ability to carry that is because he continues to believe that God will supply his need. God will supply his need. No other details. Oh boy, we would like the details, wouldn't we? God will supply my need. Well, how is that going to happen? And what's the time schedule? My daughter got a new phone, and she's ranting, and like many of you know this much better than I, but the new phones are amazing. It's just, they can do amazing things. And I look at them and say, wow, isn't that great? And I think to myself, no way I'm getting that phone, because I'd be totally confused. She gets this new phone, and my daughter has her own business, you know, so scheduling is a very important thing with her. And she says, this new phone is terrible, because on the scheduling, you know, the old phone had every hour on the schedule. When you pulled up the screen, it had 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You get the idea. Like a date book. Those of us dinosaurs who still use date books. That's what it had. So she could fill this in. The new one is just the day. So you have to put in 8:30, 7:15, whatever the thing is in what you're doing. She says, it throws my whole life is thrown off by this. My whole life is thrown off. Because the other one, I just put something in, and then I marked off, you know, how, like this was going to be a 2-hour appointment, this was going to be a half-hour appointment. Now I've got to fill in 8 o'clock to 9:30. Her whole life is thrown off. See, if God, it's like the two phones. God, we've got to fill in all the dates and the times when we're going to receive all this power, when it's possible that you are going to turn life around for us. That's what we'd really like. When the suffering is going to end. Wouldn't you like to know when the suffering is going to end? Not your own suffering, although you're certainly hoping most of all to know when that's going to happen. But when's the suffering in Haiti going to end? When's the suffering in the Middle East going to end? When are all the troops, all the military people that we pray for, when are they going to be home from Iraq and Afghanistan? What's going to happen about all this suffering? It gets so painful that the only sensible thing for us to do is to try to distance ourselves from it. One of the ways we distance it is say, you know, the reason people are like that, like the story of, you know, the tower fell on those people. And some people said, well, the tower fell on them because they were terrible people. We heard this about the disasters in Haiti and other places. Well, those people got killed because, you know, they weren't really right with God, one preacher told us. One ignoramus preacher, as far as I'm concerned. They didn't do anything. They brought this on, they didn't bring it on themselves. The tragedy just happened. But there is a constant old idea which lives in the hearts of every American, I think, somewhere deep within us, although we ought to fight it off. And that is that health and prosperity mean that God is pleased. And suffering and poverty means that these people have sinned against God, and that's why they're suffering. And that idea holds true. And it holds true in people until we edit it out and say that can't be right. It can't be right. Not when we look at Jesus' life. Jesus wants us to free ourselves from this terrible idea because there is no formula in this life that we can apply to other people. There is no way to distract ourselves from the fact that life is a mystery. And we have to live in that mystery, both good and bad. And Jesus relies on his relationship to God as the only sure thing, the only deep truth to grasp, his trust in God, and then just live in the freedom of trusting God, but not bargaining with God for loyalty as a hedge against sorrows. That's something for us to worry about because all of us have said, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why don't I have this or that or the other thing? There's no bargaining our way to prosperity.